All right. Hey, great to have you back for the second video. Hopefully, that's a sign that the first one was worth your time, which is obviously my goal. So thanks for trusting that the next video will be just as good and maybe better than the first. I hope to make it even better. But seriously, I know your time is valuable and I appreciate your giving me some of it. And thanks as well to those of you who left a comment on the first video. I really enjoy reading those. You'll of course have the same opportunity for this one. So as you're listening, keep track of your thoughts, your questions, your feedback, and so on. It's all gold for me to hear that stuff, and I'd love to hear what it is that you have to say. So, quick recap. First, again, I'm Ryan Barba. I'm an MBA admissions expert. I went to business school at Cornell on a full tuition scholarship where I studied strategy and marketing. I worked in strategy and marketing consulting for about 10 years. I worked in MBA admissions for 5 years, and I've been an MBA admissions advisor coaching MBA candidates for the past 4 years now. I live and breathe helping candidates get into business school, and I spend most of my time making trainings like these, working individually with MBA wannabes, speaking at MBA forums, and contributing to articles on MBA admissions and eating a lot of buffalo wings. But I digress. Most important recap. In the last video, I talked about the importance of differentiating yourself in the MBA admissions process, or the importance of strategically identifying and articulating your personal brand, or what I call a unique value proposition, your UVP. I talked about how when applying to a competitive business school, where typically over 90% of candidates are qualified enough in terms of their GMAT and GRE scores, or their college GPAs, you really need to differentiate yourself in other ways if you actually want to earn admission. Then, I taught you through my value structure or framework, the 5 things you must articulate convincingly in your MBA application if you actually plan to earn acceptance. I won't go through them all in detail because if you haven't watched or listened to video 1 yet, you should. But real quick, the value structure, the 5 things you must show in your MBA application in addition to your test scores and your academic record are: first, your vision; second, your achievement and relevant progress to date; third, your leadership potential; fourth, what I call your unique kicker; and fifth is relevant expertise. So today, I want to talk you through the first one, your vision. That is your vision for where you're going. This is something that every business school will ask you. What are your post-MBA career goals, both short and long term? And why do you need an MBA to achieve those goals? In asking you about your vision, the AdCom, the admissions committee, needs to see that you are, first, clear about where you're headed, both in the short and long term. Second, passionate about something, driven to make some type of valuable impact that means something real to you, and that you're not just trying to quote unquote get rich. Third, realistic but also aggressive career goals, right? That you're a go-getter, that you're going to really push yourself to achieve at a high level. Fourth, that you're certain an MBA is the best route to achieving your goals, and very clear on how an MBA will help give you the skills and knowledge you need to succeed. There are 4 points or parts to a convincing, well-rounded vision or story for an MBA candidate, and I want to walk you through those now. First is your relevant growth to date. The structure or the progress that you've made to this point in your career that has prepared you for business school and even to your post-MBA career. Second, the MBA as a bridge between where you are now, your pre-MBA career, and your short-term career goals. Third, your short-term career, or what I call your short-term training ground, training for your long-term goals, right? That's the third part. And then fourth is your long-term vision for contribution, as I call it, your long-term career goals and your vision for what you want to do. So, interestingly, the best way to tell your story, though, isn't as intuitive. I think these 4 points kind of make sense, but but I want to walk you through the actual structure that I've been teaching for years that has been wildly successful for MBA candidates that I've consulted to. Now here's where we're going to get a little bit more technical, so stay with me, but this is the exact formula, the exact structure I always teach to my candidates in completing that standard career goals essay that I've given to over 550 candidates that I've worked with, again, 94% of which have gotten into a top school. It works. Why? Because it's specific, it's clear, it's well thought out, and it's inspiring. It frankly makes the admissions committee root for you and like you if you structure your argument this way. So you can apply this exact formula and structure to your career goals essays or in your response when you're asked in an interview about your career goals and your reason for why you need an MBA. How? Well, let's jump into these 4 steps one by one. So we're going to start, number 1, with the long-term vision for contribution. So why do we start with a long-term vision? Well, I'd refer you to what is probably my favorite TED Talk. It's called Start With Why by an author and speaker named Simon Sinek. You should watch it. And he talks about why the most effective brands and companies, those who attract a cult-like following like Apple, sell their why rather than their what. They tell us why we as customers should care. That is what you're doing here. You're starting by telling the admissions committee, the AdCom, why they should care about you, where you're headed, and why your long-term vision is important to you, that you're passionate about something. And man, if you can make a personal and passionate plea that shows awareness and concern for something, a desire to stand for something real and make an impact in your career, well, that is differentiating. That's what'll get the AdCom to root for you, to say, wow, that's really inspiring. If he or she makes the impact they're gunning for, how great would it be able to say that he or she is an alum of our program, right? When crafting a long-term goal or vision for your career and your life, there are certain things you got to articulate. First, what problem do you want to help solve? Or how do you want to contribute to progress being made in a specific area? Second, okay, how are you going to do that? What types of positions are you targeting and for what type of company? Third, where does this vision for contribution come from? Why is it important to you? What experiences inspired that vision for you? Now, to be clear, your vision for contribution, as I call it, doesn't have to be humanitarian in nature. You don't have to say that you want to cure cancer or eliminate poverty in sub-Saharan Africa, although it's fine if you do. But the key to articulate your specific value add, how you want to contribute something valuable and needed in the world in general, or to the business world, to a particular industry, to particular people, or populations of people, or companies, or anything else. You can do that as the president of a nonprofit, an entrepreneur, a hedge fund manager, a partner at Bain & Company, or anything else in between. But you need to be specific about what that role will be and the specific way in which you want to help a specific group of people accomplish or do something. Even as I'm saying this, you'll notice that I'm repeating the same word over and over and over again. Specific. The top trap that most candidates fall into is that they're not specific enough. They're generic. They say things like, well, I want to go into consulting, or I want to start a technology startup. Thousands of applicants say that and those things similar to those in their applications every year, and subsequently find themselves as members of the what I would call qualified rejects club. The huge group of applicants who put up strong numbers like GMAT scores and GPAs and great work experience, but don't get into business school. Truthfully, the percentage of applicants who know their long-term vision for contribution is shockingly low. And the percentage who articulate it convincingly in their applications is even lower. But this is something that the top MBA programs, and really all MBA programs, actually do care about. I mean, for years, Stanford GSB has asked 2 essay questions of their candidates. 1, why Stanford? And 2, what matters most to you and why? Tuck, another example, asks, what are your short and long-term career goals? And how will a Tuck MBA enable you to become a wise leader with global impact? These are just a couple of examples of essays from top programs that speak to how they're looking for candidates to show their long-term vision for contribution and impact. And in speaking to candidates I've worked with over the past year, virtually every top program is asking this exact question in interviews. So in other words, if you want to get into a good business school, being clear on your long-term career goals and how you intend to add real value to the world in some way isn't optional if you really want to get into a great school. Okay, let's move on to your short-term career goal. That's the second step or second paragraph in your essay. Scale back from your long-term goal. What position within what type of company will help you prepare for your long-term goal? Basically, you want to say, given my long-term vision, I've identified what I believe is the best way to prepare and arm myself with the skills, knowledge, and connections I'll need to reach the top and achieve my long-term vision. So I call it a short-term training ground. Setting a short-term goal that is the perfect training environment to set you up to achieve your long-term vision for contribution. Make sense? And again, specificity is clear and is king when it comes to articulating your short-term goal. You've got to be able to tell the admissions committee what kind of company or organization will you work for? What are some examples of companies you might target? What role will you pursue and what is that role like? What hard and soft skills will you build in that role? And how will it prepare you in general for long-term success? I want to talk more about how to create and communicate a really compelling short-term goal in the next video, which is so important. So more on that in a bit. But for now, step 3. Again, not intuitive, 1, 2, over here to 3. This is your third paragraph, the third step in your essay. Determining or demonstrating that you've made relevant progress to date. How have you made progress toward your goals? Now, it's okay if you want to use an MBA to make a career transition and make a transition out of your current field. But showing that you've made progress toward your post-MBA goals in some way or another is definitely mandatory. That's what I mean by relevant growth. Relevant in that you've begun to build skills or expertise or knowledge that will serve you well during and after business school. That you'll be able to apply in your post-business school career. There are many ways to do that. Remember, I've seen people get into top programs that come from very non-business backgrounds, like acting or waitressing or nursing and everything in between. So the exercise of demonstrating your relevant growth to date may require some thinking and some creativity. But if you have any work experience, you have something to say here. I guarantee it. Just requires some thought. And by the way, if you're still a year or more away from applying to business school, defining this case and this story, this vision ahead of time, how you want to show relevant progress in your pre-MBA career, talk about a strategic advantage. If you can decide in advance how you want to position or frame yourself to the admissions committee, your UVP, and especially how you are planning to make relevant progress toward those goals in your career before starting business school, you can basically act accordingly in building that UVP in the years leading up to school. You can pursue jobs or projects at work or projects outside of work that will give you exposure to building relevant skills. You can form mentorship relationships with people who can teach you those skills, and so on and so forth. There's a million ways to do this, but again, if you can plan ahead and proactively build skills you know you'll need after business school now, and then show your target schools that convincingly, you're really setting yourself up for success in the admissions process. Because very, very few candidates actually do that. But regardless of whether you're planning years ahead of time or applying to business school this year and trying to figure out how you can make your case that you've grown and progressed in relevant ways, here are the best ways to show progress and growth toward your short-term and long-term career goals. First, hard skill development. Second, knowledge growth. Third, leadership skill growth. Fourth, other soft skill growth. And fifth, building connections. So let's go through those one by one. Hard skills are knowing how to do something. Again, don't fall into the trap of getting generic here. So many candidates do. You don't want to just say, I know strategy. Be more specific. Same with knowledge growth, which is not as much knowing how to do something, but knowing maybe how something works. Like, I have learned how operations in the car manufacturing business works and what constitutes best practice when it comes to cutting costs in that industry, for example. Something like that. One argument you must make in your MBA application is that you've demonstrated leadership potential. That's the third one. And take conscious steps to improve, and have taken conscious steps to improve your leadership skills. But I beg of you, please, if you want to get into a top business school, do not make the mistake of thinking that you have had no leadership experiences just because you don't have a formal leadership role or a formal management role. It's one of the most common mistakes candidates make. They sell themselves short, really short, in articulating their leadership potential simply because they're not yet leading a team of 20 people. Remember that the vast majority of candidates, outside of maybe entrepreneurs who have started a business and are kind of the CEO by default, are going to have much leadership skill going into business school. And most are hoping to transition into a leadership role after business school. They're not coming in having already worked in one. There are endless types of examples and things that you can show that show leadership potential. I'll talk more about that in video 3 as well. But getting back to our structure. So at this point, you've proven that you have a passionate, long-term goal for contribution. You've talked about the training you need to achieve that vision and how you'll get there through that perfect training ground, your short-term goal, and how you've made progress toward those goals by building relevant hard skills, knowledge, leadership skills, and other things that'll serve you on the job. But now we talk about the fourth part, your need for an MBA. Virtually every single business school is going to ask you why you need an MBA. As I've said before, either in their essays, in their interview, or usually both. Obviously, this is important for a business school to hear. If you're not clear on why you need or want an MBA, why in the world would a business school ever accept you? Now, this falls last in your essay. This is your fourth point, maybe your fourth paragraph. It's the final thing you talk about, and you do it for 3 reasons. There's 3 reasons why I put it last. First, you can connect your need for an MBA to where you're going and how it'll help you transition into your short-term goal because you've already explained your short-term goal. 2, you can argue for how an MBA will help you build on the skills and knowledge you already have because, again, you've already reviewed that as well. But third, and probably most importantly, you can then springboard into why you want to go to their particular business school specifically, if they ask, which frankly allows you to end on a very positive note, right? Never hurts to close with a compliment, right? Some schools will ask you why their program specifically, others won't as part of their essays. But again, being able to convincingly argue for why you need an MBA is an absolute must. Now, of course, to craft your convincing story, you need to understand such things as how do I create a compelling long-term vision and communicate it in a way that intrigues the outcome? How do I get informed and appear credible about my short-term goal? How can I make my short-term goal appear both realistic and aggressive at the same time? How do I convincingly argue that I've made significant progress in my career? How can I make it crystal clear that I need an MBA and how it'll help me achieve my goals, and why is their program the best program for me and me for it. You need to be able to articulate all those things. So in my next video, I want to actually tackle the second, third, and fourth of those things. I want to focus on your short-term goal and how you articulate a really credible, believable, hard-hitting post-MBA goal that shows an MBA program that you're serious about where you're heading, that you've done your homework and are clear about what's next for you, and that you're not taking life lying down, but are really setting out to be super aggressive and make something of yourself immediately post-business school. This isn't theory, by the way. I'm going to give you the step-by-step plan for crafting a really winning, specific, convincing short-term goal. Your short-term goal is particularly important to an MBA program. It matters a lot to them that you'll be able to find a job coming out of business school. Their employment statistics, the percentage of candidates who are employed coming out of school, is a key driver of their reputation and their rank in sources like the US News and World Report, the Financial Times, and those other sources. And believe it or not, there are some really specific things you can be doing now, well before you apply, to build credibility and craft a short-term goal that will shine in your essays and convince the admissions committee that you're going to be successful as soon as you graduate business school. So, see you in video number 3. I promise that I'll be teaching, that what I'm teaching in that video is different from anything else you're going to hear from any other sources or admission experts out there. And again, I'm teaching you only proven strategies here. I've seen this stuff work time after time after time as I've worked with hundreds of candidates preparing for business school. So, as with the last time, leave your comments below. I'd love your feedback, thoughts, and questions on anything related to today's video. Hearing from you, even just a simple, hey, that was really helpful, actually means a lot to me. It means that what I'm doing here is making a difference. So be vocal. Let me know what you think about this video, whether you think it was awesome, whether you think it sucked, or maybe it was somewhere in between. I look forward to hearing your comments. And the link to video 3 will be in your inbox in just a couple days. So stay tuned for that. Until then, be well, keep crushing it, stay confident in yourself, and, comment below. See ya.